newscasters read, and they'll say, well, what's the weather like today? And instead of saying, well, it's cold outside. So it's cold.
I counted somebody the other morning, and she said it 10 times.
Yeah,
every single sentence, and the other one is like.
Yes.
Right. I'm going to go down to like the station. But I'm going to go like here.
Don't we go through little phases in that? Is it? I
don't.
You know what I mean?
That's another one. Well, if you're speaking and you're speaking fluently and coherently, shouldn't they know what you mean without having to ask the question?
Well, but I think it's sort of there's waves. It's about what I was talking about earlier about waves.
Certain types of people, isn't it?
I think there's waves of things that go through the British society. It catches somewhere in the schoolyard somewhere like the wings of a butterfly and then manages to find its way throughout the nation, and we end up using these little phrases that sort of slip into the language.
The wings of a butterfly. It's very poetic, Alan.
Well, it's that, they're the wings of a butterfly in the Brazilian rainforest, and you end up with a storm in the Atlantic or something.
Well, two people will see each other, and they say, oh, good morning, how are you? Oh, I'm good.
Yes, another one. Darren says that, actually. Darren in Australia. Hello, Darren, I hope you're listening.
I think English is such a great language to have fun with. I mean, you can have an amazing amount of fun with just the odd word here and there, and I think our vocabulary is much wider than most people think.
Rather.
Indeed.
Philosophical very, very philosophical.
Well, that public school accent, I mean, that's great, isn't it? I think we all love it.
Wacko. Leslie Phillips.
Well, the Leslie Phillips RAF accent. Hey, say, old chap, 74 feet.
Do you know where Leslie Phillips came from? He came from Northumberland Park, by Tottenham, just off Tottenham High Road, yeah.
Personally, I think...
It's not a very posh area.
We are actually missing out here. Now, it seems to me that society, everyone's got to be at the same level. Communism, in other words.
Communism.
Okay? And there's this big thing about class. As far as I'm concerned, that's absolutely fine. Keep the class. Rather than the way you talk, okay. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And that's great to hear these people. Although it brings all sorts of other comments, and people don't like that because they're perceived to be rich, and they've got rich because it's been handed down through generations. That's happening now on just a little level. But the words being used and losing part of what is a heritage of English language, I think is really sad. You know what I mean?
This guy.
And actually, I do. Yes, I do.
And I think, I know language changes over the year. Behest, a field of whatever it is, and
the
Shakespeare stuff and whatever, that has now gone. And, maybe it will come back. And that's the beauty and the variety of the English language.
This sounds like Between Two Worlds.
I'll be gone now.
Well, be it gone or be it not gone?
That is a question.
That is definitely a question.
I don't like much is plummy women. Women, when they speak with a very plummy voice.
Oh, it turns
I'm a little
bit
suspicious of it.
No, it turns me on.
I like it.
Do you? But they sound like men. They sound like men.
Oh. Plummy voice, smart suit, lovely.
Yeah. Nice pair of legs.
What were you going to say there then?
Anyway, moving on swiftly again.
I mean, it's. I have a very good friend of mine who is very, very pedantic in his use of the language. And I mean, for instance, he won't say, I went for a walk today down to the shops. He'll say, well, yesterday I perambulated down to the shops.
Who's this?
Richard Clegg. And I mean, in technical terms, it's exactly what he did. He perambulated down to the shops.
And guess what, Mike?
Did you?
I perchance to meet an old friend of mine last Saturday after this show.
That's right. It is perchance, and it was exactly right. Did you?
But isn't that absolutely delightful?
Absolutely delightful.
It's so charming that he could meet a friend and perhaps exchange a few polite.
Let's move on. Go on.
Lynn's saying, "Good morning, boys. All top hole and chickadee boo over here."
Yeah, lovely to hear from you this morning, Linda. Delightful, and I hope your day goes very well.
Yes.
I'm sure he will.
Good morning, Trish, as well. I hope you're listening this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mark Elvis, as well. He's been on this morning as well about booze. He said he only has about 4 cans of lager a month or something.
Yeah. Oh, you're a lucky fella, mate. I've 4 bottles of gin a month. But I'm working on alcoholism, but I haven't got there yet, But we're talking about the English language. There's a teacher here who faces the sack after accidentally calling a transgender pupil girl rather than boy. Joshua Sutcliffe, 27 years of age, said the student, who identifies as a male, became irate after he said, "Well done, girls," to him and a female friend for working hard. The maths teacher, who doesn't believe in gender fluidity due to his Christian faith, said he avoided using he and him when discussing the teenager and instead called him by his chosen male first name. After the student's parents complained, Mr. Sutcliffe was suspended from the state secondary school in Oxfordshire during a probe and faces a disciplinary hearing this week in which he could lose his job.
I think I'd sue, if I was him, I think I'd sue the school.
I'd sue the pants off the school. He should never lose his job about it, and I think it's made up story. But I think it's another...
It could be fake news.
I don't think it's fake news. I think it's tweet news.
It is an innocent mistake.
I think full factors
should it be true.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's an innocent mistake or not. I mean, I think that the kids need to toughen up a little bit if they're going for a gender change. And being called the wrong gender once by a teacher is hardly, a sackable offence. Get real.
We come in and say morning, girls, don't we, to each other?
You see,
it's like getting a driving ban because you bumped into a post in the car park.
Because I've got my tutu on, I was very fortunate, really, because I was brought up in a boys' school, all boys, and I didn't really know what girls were until I was about 12.
Borstal, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Borstal. Here is a school talking about that. Furious parents have claimed that their children came home drenched after being made to play in the rain during the school lunch break. The head at their primary school believes playing in the rain is good for pupils and has implemented a new wet play policy to combat sedentary lifestyles. They probably want all the little girls running around in their wet t-shirts,
they're not going to shrink, are they?
The policy has raised questions over how far schools should go to toughen up today's youngsters, with some critics labelling the pupils and parents as snowflakes. Anne-Marie Fletcher, who has children at the Piper's Vale Primary Academy in Ipswich, said, "It's disgusting. They were made to stay outside in the pouring rain. I wouldn't have put my dog out there. They were wet and cold all afternoon, absolutely drenched." Now then...
Yeah, well, wet dogs smell, don't they?
We all went to school, didn't we? And did we play out in the rain?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And after school, and before school.
We were tough in our day, lads.
Did it do us any harm?
On this subject, just a slight tweak on this. I could probably understand a little bit of argument during the actual school week if they're not got the relevant clothes. If they've got a coat with them, there isn't really a problem. Now, the other week there was an article about a nursery that has got a grade 1 Ofsted. And guess what they do with these little kids? They tog them up, they stick them outside, they give them hammers, lumps of wood, they give them all sorts. They can climb over this, do this, they can fall down. And Ofsted absolutely loved it because
health and safety
it's national. Health and safety, fine. People are there, they're observing. But the big thing with this was they're allowed freedom to express themselves and explore and do things, climb a little bit of a tree, and allowed to fall down and hurt themselves. That's part of life. Crikey, I could walk down the road here at 60, trip up and smack bang on the floor. That's part of life. That's the way it is. I just got it. Very good, Bob. And the thing was, the parents were all in favour of that. The parents that sent their children to that thing, they absolutely loved it. And quite honestly, we quite often go out for walks at various places, and we see little kids in their little wellies standing there jumping up and down in puddles.
Oh, they love it.
And if it's chucking it down the rain, they're not interested. They just carry on. It is no big deal. And guess what? It rains in this country. Get over it.
They don't go rusty, do they?
No, Kevin, you're absolutely right, mate. It's
because we kids.
We've got to stop mollycoddling them. We've got to start letting them live, letting them grow up.
Well, I think it's probably kids, they're thinking of litigation, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but so sometimes you need the judicial service to sort of turn around and say, "Hang on a minute, the kid was climbing the tree and fell off. Okay, so what?"
How many of you guys have actually climbed a tree, fell out, and sprained your ankle or broke your ankle or something? I've done it as well. Now the thing is, these things are easily solved. With this particular nursery school, I don't know whether they did or not, but it's easy. You sign up and it says, we are going to send them out in the rain. Yeah. We are going to let them run amok outside.
Yeah, and if you come to our school,
there will be guidance, there will be people there, but expect your child to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought it back down to the normality of it all. You go out there and you've got your raincoat on, or your weatherproof jacket. Yeah. I mean, I don't think for one moment that any school teacher would say to a class of little tots, who were all there in their little gym slips and little white blouses, right, out you go in the pouring rain and get soaking wet, I think,
that would be ridiculous.
Boys and girls, go and put your coats on, and
boys and girls go out to play.
Put your coats on.
Yeah,
you've got Wellingtons, put those on as well. Let's go out and kick some puddles.
What they'll be saying now is, when they send their kids to a particular school, the school's got to provide Macintoshes, haven't they, or raincoats for them. This is what the parents would be after, isn't it?
But that's not unreasonable, is it? I mean, there is a raincoat that's kept on a hook in the cloakroom for use on wet days.
I'm sure a lot of schools do provide.
Because I'm sure sometimes, on a warm day, you might not dress your child in a heavy-duty raincoat or anything. But if it rains, actually the perfect time to go out in a raincoat is on a warm day. Because
hang on, you're missing the really subtle point here, Alan.
What's the subtle point?
The subtle point is that mums take their kids to school in the 4x4s and they get out of the air-conditioned 4x4. They go the 20 foot into the school and that's it. They don't need raincoats or anything like that because when they come out from school, they don't really get wet because they're straight out of school and into the 4x4 from mum, who's parked on the double yellow line.
I was amazed. I had to go to the Neath Hill Dental Surgery the other day, which is next to a school, and I had an 8:30 appointment, so I was watching all the kids being dropped off. And I was amazed. We talk about the 4x4s. There were so many of them. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Must be some sort of, mummy's competition to see who can get the biggest car.
Yes, it's not a joke. No. It's true. It's fact.
I understand that parents do have to bring their children to school by car, though, because the really, it's impractical to have a bus service in many areas of Milton Keynes.
Yeah,
they come from such a scattered all over the place, and I understand the reasons for it. Milton Keynes is an evolving place. People move, but they want their children to retain at the same school for continuity purposes.
It's a bit expensive to pay the bus for 100 yards, isn't it? Because people living in my street take their cars to the kids to school. It's all of like 5 minutes walk. I walk it.
I disagree with that completely, but I do know that there are a great many people who do a lot further than that. I was involved in this when I was involved in
Yeah, that's fine.
We went through. We did a survey on how many people were doing short journeys, and actually, the vast majority of people brought their children to school by walking them when they lived very close, and the majority of people came by car, had longer journeys than would be practical to walk. There were a few that could have actually easily put their children, walked their children, and did the short journey, but they were absolutely in the minority. The vast majority of parents taking their children to school do it for a very good reason. The other one is that they've got to start work themselves.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And so you can't walk your child to school, walk all the way home, then get in a car, then go to work. Particularly if the weather's not very nice, because you want to turn up at work dressed appropriately. So it's quite reasonable for somebody who's a working mother to take their kid, put them in the car, drop them off at school at 8:45 and be in the office for 9 o'clock. That's a very reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, but I'm just arguing the point. I think there's a lot that don't. There's a lot that just goes round the corner in their car, because I've seen it.
Sorry, my argument is that they're in the minority.
I see it every day.
Yeah, but it's picking out the salacious bit amongst the, yes, there are the odd one or two, but they are actually in the minority. And I think it's an.
I don't think so. I think next time you go around to your dental thing, you look at the women who have got 3 or 4 kids in the car, and they let one out to go to school, and then they drive home. They're not going to work at all.
That's right.
They're not going to work at all.
At all.
But when I was young, I don't ever remember being taken to school by my parents. I walked to school on my own.
Indeed.
From 7 onwards.
And when you was old enough, you went by bike, didn't you? When you went a bit further.